Okay, like I said, it's an honor to talk to you. I see many people here that I have not seen before and some that I have seen before. And I would like to show you, first of all, what kind of company I run, what we have done, generally in large format printing. And then I will also show you what we're doing when it comes to interior designs and digital printing of textiles for interiors or printeriors. So I will get to that. But first of all, this is what we do. We print super large scale patterns on fabrics in any size imaginable. And we started 27 years ago to do this. And this is actually what we believe is the first digitally printed image in the world. This is 1987, a 300 square meter image. And so far, no one has contradicted me on that. So I believe we were the first. And we did this by developing our own technology. And today we print our beautiful fabrics in 12 meters width without a seam. This is the company today. We're 60 plus employees in our 5 different countries. We have production in Sweden and Germany. And we have clients in more than 28 different countries all over the world with a 10 million euro turnover. Generally, from the beginning, we only did stuff for the theater stage and the opera stage and the rock and roll stage, where they wanted these huge murals, these huge images printed on fabric so they could take it on tour, and they wanted really deep, vibrant colors. But they always wanted the opportunity to backlight it. And when you backlight something, you don't want the seam in it, because the seam will show up as a slightly darker line. So we developed these huge printers to do this stuff. And this is what the printers looks like today. So this is one of our 12 meter wide printers that prints 12 meter wide times 50 meters in length in one piece without a seam. Can you tell I'm very, very proud of that? And it's been so difficult to get there. But fortunately, we've been able to sell this to a lot of customers, the print that is, and to do a lot of really, really nice projects. One of the latest really large projects was for Chanel, their fashion week in Paris, where we did a street in Paris, a virtual street in Paris, an avenue, in scale 1:1. So we printed these huge pieces of fabric, but we did everything in 3 dimensions. So the walls of the actual scaffolding, because this was all fake, of course, were printed and cut with plywood that we put our fabrics on top of. So we could create these really 3-dimensional, real-life looking events. And believe it or not, this was built in 2 days. In 2 days, we made a 120-meter long real avenue in Paris in scale 1:1 in only using fabrics. And it was a big success. This is also a project that we did recently, or actually last year. This is the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in Sochi, Russia, where 3 horses, the 3 Russian Troika horses, galloped over the opening ceremony. They're 24 meters high from hoof to head. And here they are again. And they're all done of lightweight aluminum frames and fabrics. Not even printed fabrics in this case, but specially cut and sewn fabrics and attached to the horses by Big Image. And this opening ceremony was seen by 900 million viewers on television all over the world. Now, if we take this, okay, we do these super large scale projects all out of fabric, and we apply it to the interior design. Interior design, which is in huge volume, everyone needs it, everyone wants it, it's everywhere. What can be done with all the stuff that we've learned through our 27 years of doing digital printing in large scale? Well, we apply it to anything that is fabric. Anything that is soft and flexible, we can print on and we can use somehow. This is one of our 5 Guinness Book of World Records. This is the largest balloon in the world, or actually the largest 3-dimensionally printed object in the world, if I'm correct. And this is actually me with a pulse rate of about 5,000 beats per second, because when you do something this big, you have no idea what you're doing and what it's going to look like until you inflate it the first time. So we inflated it. Unfortunately, it looked great. We deflated it. We flew it to Acapulco Beach in Mexico. We installed it at a water adventure park, and we got to fly in it for the first time. And this is a 5,000 square meter 3-dimensional print. Cool. But everything we learned there, we can take inside in much more convenient dimensions for interior designs. And the beauty of using fabrics is that there are no rules, there are no limitations. It's not heavy, it's not dangerous, it's not difficult to install, it's not difficult to take down again, it's not difficult to change or store and fold up and ship back or change. Everything with fabric is so easy. So with fabrics, you can hang it in the ceiling in any which way you like. And there are fabrics that have the right properties, so they can hang below sprinklers or below ventilation or below anything. And you can cut fabrics on site to pull down wires or cables or chains to hang lighting. And imagine doing something like this in place with rigid substrates. Much more difficult and much more flexible. Fortunately, we can't really see much of this. I'm sorry. Is there possible? Can you change the lighting here? Oh, it doesn't show much, but this is, unfortunately, this is a beautiful interior ceiling, stretch ceiling that we did. We can't really see much on the projector, but imagine you're in a movie theater. It's about this big, and in the ceiling, well, there you go. Thank you very much. In the ceiling, there's lots of installations. There's ventilation pipes, and there's sprinkler pipes, and there's lots of stuff in the ceiling. It looks terrible. Imagine in a couple of hours' time, just stretching a piece of fabric over the entire inner ceiling in a movie theater to completely redesign the feel, the shape of that particular room. And that's what we do in these movie theaters. And imagine doing that in anything else than fabrics. Anyway, moving on. As many of you already know, and I've seen several examples of this in the exhibit also, is that fabrics can be combined with sound isolation or sound absorption, or what I like to call it, I call it noise absorption. It's really not the sound that you want to take away, it's the noise that you want to take away, the kind of noise that you don't want to hear. So in restaurants like this, and I'm sure you agree with me, I hope so, generally you have to scream to your neighbor to make yourself heard. But if you combine the right noise absorbers with printed fabrics, you can decorate it and make it beautiful, and you can take charge of the conversation again. You can actually start talking to your partner again instead of screaming at him or her. And if we move from the ceiling down back to the floor again, all of a sudden we have the most unused advertising or decoration space at all today. I don't even see much in the show. And there's so much stuff you can do on the ceiling, and it's all temporary or permanent. Now, this is a company in the US, one of my biggest customers. And do you know what they do? They rent out carpets for weddings, period. That's what they do, nothing else. So if you want a dance floor on your wedding and you're in the US, you can probably call this company and order a floor, rent a floor, with the size and the pattern and the graphics that you want. And as soon as your wedding is over, you just roll it up and ship it back. Pretty cool idea. Flooring for weddings, nothing else. And these floors can, of course, I'm sure there are a couple of printers here. We can print them in panels that are 1 meter wide or 5 meters wide, or why not even 12 meters wide, depending on what's easy to use. But just imagine the possibilities of completely changing a room to something extremely unexpected, but just rolling out the new carpet. Now, all of us have been in conference rooms like this before. Now imagine that we were to come in here this morning, and on this entire floor was like the open sea with dolphins in it or something like that. That would have been something that we would not have expected. It would have been really cool, and it would have been really easy to do because it's so easy to work with digitally printed fabrics. Also, if we move up now to the more vertical vision again, we can print the slides, the Venetian blinds that form an image when they're closed, but you can't see the image when they're open. And you can use it at room dividers like this. Very effective way of working with images for interior designs. And let's talk about restaurants. Restaurants, number one, they always have a noise problem, and number two, they have a decoration problem. And restaurants is a prime example for printeriors, for printed interiors. And I'm sure that many of us are already working in those regards. And images can be used all over. And just imagine, many of you already know this, but it's so easy just to hang the fabrics instead of drilling and building and making everything look dirty all over. And images can be anywhere, and it can be done in any kind of fabric or material. Or why not see-through fabrics? So you can see the image both from the inside and the outside. You can print on these really thin fabrics, or you can use the really thick fabrics, so you can use it as a light blocker and have one image on one side and a different piece of artwork on the other side. Perfectly possible with digitally printed fabrics. You can glue the fabrics to folding doors, or directly to the walls, or round shapes. Everything is possible with fabrics. It's only our own imagination that is the limitation what can be done with fabrics. It's not the fabrics, it's not the inks, it's not the machines, it's probably, hopefully not the printing companies, but it's our own imagination. And I believe even after 27 years, we have probably not come up with the best ideas yet. I see new ideas from my customers about every week where I think, how can I have not thought about that for 27 years? So there's still a lot of stuff that can be done with fabrics that are not done yet. So we can continue, and I could go on all day, not to outdone Gemma with the number of slides. I cannot do that, but I could go on all day with showing examples of what can be done with fabrics. But you know what? Like I said, the most fun stuff is still not yet done. The see-through fabrics has become a specialty for Big Image because we use them, or I should say our customers use them, as room dividers. Now, a room divider divides a room without actually blocking the view of the room. You can still see through the fabrics and you can experience the space of the room. Instead of taking a really large, nice space and dividing it to smaller spaces, you can still have some kind of division of the room, but you can still see through it. So the see-through fabrics has become a great success for us in all kinds, shapes, sizes, and forms. Back to the noise absorbers. I must confess one thing. I did not expect the noise reduction, noise correction, noise absorbers, that market to be as big as it is today. I did not really see the combination of noise reduction and fabrics as many companies do in the business. So we're kind of late to catch on, but it's become a great business for us. And to install a noise absorber in a corridor in an office like this can create a fantastic change. And it's really easy to sell to the client because you can take a noise absorber. They're really lightweight. You can carry them in your hand or under your arm. And it starts to absorb the noise at once. Once you get into the office, all of a sudden it's quieter. And then you can walk back out again and it's more noisy. It doesn't matter where in the space the noise absorber is placed. It starts absorbing the noise anywhere in the actual office space. So it's a really cool thing to show to clients. And also, it's very easy to work with because the noise absorbers that we use, of course, we believe in inventing the wheel ourselves over and over again. We have developed it ourselves. It's made out of recycled polyester. It's really lightweight and flexible and easy to work with. And it's kind of a nice change for us to sometimes work in smaller, more convenient formats than always working in the super large formats, which we love, but it's also very, very demanding to do. Pillows, as Gemma told us, can be printed in many, many different kinds of shapes and sizes. And as for you non-printers here, with dye sublimation technology, all of these pillowcases can be washed, and they're wash-proof. And we use, of course, only REACH-compliant water-based inks to do what we do. I think that in interior design, backlit has its purpose. We always talk about backlit images. For us, that's the theater world, but for many other printers, backlit is in the more commercial world. And we see literally hundreds of examples of backlit images here on the show. But I believe backlit images can also have a place in interior design, because a backlit image replaces virtually any other printed surface in that area. We have worked with a lot of stores throughout the years where they've had printed images everywhere in the store. They've had hundreds of different printed images in the store in many, many shapes and sizes, and the customers have not seen anything because there's been too much. So what we help the stores with is to take away all of the graphic impressions and replace them with one large image that is backlit. A very effective way of working. And backlit can be used in so many different ways. And it can be backlit during the night when the restaurant is closed, and it can be frontlit during the day, or you can just play around with it because it's just simple, easy to use fabrics. Also, fabrics can be used. One of the many advantages with fabrics is that you can do temporary installations. This particular restaurant owner is in Las Vegas. You can almost see that. How often do you come to a European restaurant when the tables looks like this before you've even ordered something? Now, these images are replaced every night, and they change position in the restaurant every night. So he's got this restaurant owner have 7 different setups of images. One for Monday, one for Tuesday, one for Wednesday, and so on. And they're all attached with Velcro. So every evening he changes the image. So if you were to go to a restaurant, the same restaurant more than once a week, you would get into a completely new designed restaurant every time you go there. But really, he's using the same 7 images, just changing them over and over again. A very simple and creative way to create new experiences for restaurant guests. One really surprising project we did in Sweden a couple of years ago was that we had a factory, a real old school steel mill in Sweden. They wanted us to decorate the actual factory. Now that would not be a place where you would think about using printed interiors. But they wanted to make the place look nicer. They wanted the employees to see what they were doing. They wanted to add more pride into what they were doing. So they asked us to do interior decoration for the entire factory. And there was thousands and thousands of square meters. And the satisfaction of the employees rose because they were very proud to see the applications of the steel that they were manufacturing, to see it on the walls like this. And it was just a great, great success. And we continue to work with this factory. Well, printed interiors we always talk about walls, floors, ceilings, but also, as Gemma told us, we can do a lot with furniture also. In our case, we prefer to print on soft, flexible materials and attach it to hard materials instead of printing on the hard materials from the beginning. That's just a strategic choice that we've done. And of course, there's nothing wrong on printed on the rigid materials from the beginning. Also, when it comes to office spaces seems to be a very controversial place to be because sometimes companies or employees, they want a room for every person, or sometimes they want wide open spaces where no rooms. But we believe that you can actually combine the two. So this is an example of a wide open office landscape, about this big, where we have done meeting rooms in fabric. So you can actually be in the meeting room, there's a door there, and see out. But if you're on the outside, you can't see in. So it's become a very convenient way for the architects of these offices to create meeting rooms in office spaces that do not have any meeting rooms. Very effective. And these are not walls or glass or construction or difficult or anything. This is just fabric. And if you combine that with noise reduction, what do you get? Well, you build rooms within rooms without actually building anything. Offices tend to use a pretty strict color scheme, and I would go more with Gemma and use as much color as possible because it's this digital printing, and you can use anything you like. And the stronger colors you like, the less likely is that you have the interior design for a long period of time. The more likely you are to change it. And as printers, we love changes, of course. This is actually our own office in Sweden, where we use the noise-absorbent screens. We use the pylons with LED lighting in it, built out of really lightweight aluminum profiles. This is used to be my room in our office, where every surface area of the entire room is actually printed. Interior design for us is anything inside. So a TV studio is a really good example of where digital printing can make a big, big change. Or why not museums or exhibits? This particular museum uses every square inch, every square centimeter of the entire museum is printed. So everything is done in a 3D CAD modeling software. All of the panels are output numbered, we print it and we install it, and then it looks like this. And the installation process is, of course, really, really fast. Exhibit booths with backlit printed graphics looks really nice. Or why not, if you're really, really modern, have patterns in your own apartment on all surfaces. Or why not an indoor volleyball arena? And let's say we imagine we're in the tropical islands or anything like that. Imagine doing this with anything else than digitally printed fabrics. We do see a trend where the small shops try to change more often than they usually did to attract interest from persons to get in there. And when you change the entire walls of a shop, the impression you get is that the shop is almost new, and you get the impression that what they sell is new because they've changed the actual appearance of the shop. But what have you done? You've only changed a couple of images. So this is actually the same shop. This is like the first half of a year, and this is like the second half of a year. And people that walks by on the street think that, oh my God, this is a complete new shop. I have to go in there and hopefully buy something. Also, again with fabrics. Fabrics is one of the few materials out there that you can bend in 3 dimensions. And we love 3 dimensions. And it can be combined with lighting and with projection. So this is actually, well, I would say more like a 2-dimensional curved aluminum structure that we also supply that can be combined with digitally printed fabrics and 3-dimensional projection. Now we're starting to talk. Also, aluminum is, I believe, a material that is not looked upon seriously enough yet for interior design. Because what happens if you have great patterns from Gemma, you have fantastic printing, hopefully from Big Image, but if you combine that with shapes, all of a sudden stuff starts to happen. And shapes like this can be built in aluminum fairly easy if you have the right people and the right tooling. And it can be broken down into 2-meter parts for easy shipping, and it's really easy to install. What we also do is these huge interior design projects. This is our Mount Everest panorama. Christian has seen this many times, and I'll do it one more time. This is 40 meters high. It's 100 meters in circumference. What did I say? 40 meters high. That's more than 20 times the ceiling of this height. 20 times. Man, that is long. And 100 meters in circumference. How did we do that? We arranged a small expedition up to Base Camp 4, where we took 5,000 photos in 360 degrees. We printed the image in 72 pieces on our 12-meter wide machines in Berlin. We rented the entire exhibit space in Berlin to have space large enough to stitch all of the panels together. We see about 25% of the image right here. We installed it in Leipzig, in Germany. And when you were on the platform, there was a white cross in the middle. And when you stood on top of that, you could see Mount Everest from the right perspective in scale 1:1. Also, we had a lighting show that slowly, every 5 minutes, changed the lighting from daytime to nighttime, so slowly that you couldn't really see what was going on. All of a sudden, it was nighttime. And we had loudspeakers behind the fabric every 10 meters with sounds that we had recorded at Base Camp 4. And what did the people do that visited this exhibit? They went in there and they looked at a really large image that was standing absolutely still. On the platform, you were allowed to be 75 persons at the same time. This platform was full from 10 in the morning to 10 in the evening, 7 days a week, for 18 months. Had more than 300,000 paying spectators that went in there and looked at the image that was standing still. And that's pretty interesting. Generally today, we're drowned in images in all different channels and iPhones and whatever, all of the time. But What did they do? They went in there, they looked at an image that was standing still, and they started talking to each other. Talking to each other what they were seeing, did they know anything about Mount Everest, etc., etc. And I believe this is true for any great interior design. If your interior design is great, not good, but great, it will make people feel something. Something will happen. They will start talking to each other, and all of a sudden you have created a value with your interior design that is much, much bigger than what you actually paid for it. Finally, this is my last slide. Imagine you wanted to create a museum interior design that the visitors have not seen before. This is an Albert Einstein exhibit we did. It's 2 meters wide, it's 200 meters long, and it snakes through the museum in 3 dimensions. So when Albert Einstein is 25 years old, you almost have to stand on your head to see what was going on. And all of a sudden you have created a completely new museum exhibit experience that is only possible with digitally printed fabrics. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.